gonna get started. Okay, welcome everybody again to Parent Conversations. We're excited to have you guys today. Just a reminder that if you attend our Parent Conversations, you can earn gift cards to do adventures like swimming or axe throwing. And if you invite people, that gives you double the points. So invite people. We love to have lots of people. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce our guest speaker today. Hold on, I got to bring up her bio. Okay, so we have Jenna today. She is a registered dietitian and works for Utah State University. Sorry, somebody's trying to get it. Utah State University Extension. She became a dietitian because she loves helping others and teaching them how to achieve optimal health by making healthy and sustainable food and lifestyle choices. Her go-to mantra with food is all foods fit. In her position with USU Extension, she loves working with community members across Cache County. She enjoys working with all ages from children to older adults. Jenna loves summertime, running, golf, traveling, and learning about new cultures, good music, reading, and spending time with family. So welcome, Jenna. We'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It is great to be here. So I'm just going to share my screen to keep me on track as we go through this. But feel free to share comments in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and say a comment, feel free to do that. So I'm all about good interaction. Okay, so yeah, I was asked to present about family mealtimes and board games. So I'm going to start kind of going through, well, I have a couple of objectives to get us through the presentation. So we'll define what family mealtimes are, talk about the benefits of family mealtimes, how we can structure and these mealtimes so we can be successful. Because I'm a dietitian, I'm all about choosing good foods for mealtimes as well. And then we'll end with board games. So to start, I wanted to start with a quote by Ronald Reagan, and I love this quote. I think it's great when we're talking about family mealtimes. He said that all great change in America, and I think just across the world too, begins at the dinner table. And it's so true, and hopefully by the end of this or in your own life, you agree with that as well. So what is family mealtime? So there might be some ideas that you might have in your mind. If you want to maybe put your answer in the chat to what you think it means or what you think family mealtime is, feel free to do that, or any answers to how you would define family mealtime. All right, yeah, Megan said eating a meal together, usually dinner. That is true. Any other thoughts? I think that's a great place. Oh, Emily, yeah. Talking about the agenda for that day or the following day. Lindsay, a time to sit down at the table as a whole family. Talking about the day or anything we want to talk about. Eating together as a family. Food, of course, is always involved, which is great. Catherine, yeah, I like the undistracted meal as a family, no technology. And then, yeah, talking about their day. Great. Yeah, you guys covered it. So yes, the key thing, we're together, we're as a family, we're enjoying some sort of meal. Often we think that family mealtime is dinner time, but it can be any meal of the day. And because we're in a world that it can be busy with school schedules, work schedules, after school activities, you just want to find a meal that works for your family and roll with that. So the key thing is we're cooking together, we're eating together. A couple of you said we're talking together. We're just building that environment for family unity and a place to have positive communication. We're building those positive memories. So there's no right way to, or right time to have family mealtime. The key thing is just that we're striving to have family mealtime during the week. So the benefits of family mealtime, this can be another chat box answering opportunity. So how can eating meals together benefit your family? So if you want to type a couple answers into the chat box, that'd be great. And there are so many benefits. So I'll give you a second to think about it, but when you think of a couple of benefits, feel free to type your answer into the chat box. Okay, yeah, great. Tim said reducing substance use and improving grades. You wouldn't think that, but it's true. Family mealtime can help with that. Catherine saying, yeah, the consistency for young kids especially, they thrive on that. So eating dinner together every day, and that gives them that security. So true. Give you a couple more seconds to think. Okay. So I have put a lot on this next slide. Like I said, there are so many great benefits for family mealtime. So Tim already mentioned, so the decreasing substance use abuse and improving academic performance. So I have those in here. So yeah, a lot of research has been done with family mealtimes, and this bottom one right here has been shown to be true. So family mealtime decreases the risk of children and youth being involved in risky behaviors. So whether that's substance use, premarital sex, other types of, bad things, whether it's with friends, that sort of thing. Family mealtimes can decrease risk of risky behaviors. I really like these top three. So family mealtime also helps with mental health. So as children are developing and going through difficult times in middle school and high school, family mealtime can help to improve their self-esteem, decrease risk for depression, increased sense of resilience. And those are really great characteristics for children and youth to develop so they can be successful students and just teenagers all around. Another one is, of course, better nutrition. So if you're planning meals together, the goal is to plan meals that are healthy, have all the food groups. And so we want to do that with family mealtime, whether it's a healthy breakfast, a good lunch, or a good dinner. Another one is improving social skills. So this one is big as well, especially in an age of technology where we're doing a lot of things through texting or social media, especially the kids. As families sit down together, they're able to ask each other about their day or share how things are going in their life. And there was some research done, and it's actually shown that children and youth, they are more likely to open up to their parents during family mealtime. And there was a research study done, they surveyed children and youth, and they said that they were more likely to talk about their problems or share things that are happening in their life during that family mealtime. So if you start with your kids when they're young and you develop that relationship with them and make family mealtime a safe environment, they will open up to you. And of course, it's different for every child, but that's kind of what we've seen in the research. Other great things, if children are helping with cooking the meal. They are developing those cooking skills so they can be independent when they go live on their own or go off to college. And I think that's about it. So as we can see, there's a lot of really good benefits to family mealtime and why we want to try to have these throughout the week. Okay, so there are a lot of good benefits, but in a sense, the benefits are conditional. So just because you're sitting together down for dinner or breakfast doesn't mean you're going to have all of those benefits. You do need to structure your mealtime in a way that allows those benefits to come to fruition. So when we're looking at these pictures, take a second, just examine the different pictures. Notice the atmosphere that is happening in each of the family mealtime, what's happening in these pictures, and think about why these family mealtimes, while they're all together, why they might not be the best environment for a family mealtime. So you'll notice that they all have pretty good meals happening. It's hard to tell maybe in the black and white picture what they're eating there, but most of the family, they're trying to eat a good meal. So they're nourishing themselves physically. But any comments about what you see that's maybe not the best about these family meal times? Anybody want to share? You can put it in the chat or unmute yourself and share with all of us. Okay, yeah, yeah. Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, so she said only one is actually interacting and not in a positive way. Yeah. So the bottom left-hand family, they are definitely talking to each other, but does not look positive for sure. Any other comments or observations? Great, yeah. So not a lot of eye contact in the other pictures. Oh, looks like we had just exit out of it. Yeah, conflict, distractions, people ignoring each other. Great. Yeah, perfect. So you said they aren't making positive connections with each other. And that's the key thing. That's great to bring out. So a lot of those benefits that we talked about or that we saw on the last slide only come when children and parents are making those connections and getting to know each other and talking about, what's going on with their day. If we're watching TV, we're not able to do that. This family, they are together. They're not really distracted, but they're not talking to each other. And that's sometimes the case of what we see in family meal times. And then in this family, they all have their devices and they're focused on that. So this is how we can see that those benefits are conditional based on what effort we're putting forth at our family meal times. To avoid fighting or even just being distracted, and we want to try to implement good characteristics in our family meal time. So we have a great environment where we can communicate with our family, where our children feel safe. Well, I guess safe, yeah, we can use the word safe to express how they feel about something, express their opinion about something, and they know they're not going to get ridiculed by their siblings or get in trouble by their parents, but it's a positive environment. So these are just some of the good characteristics that we can implement. So good communication, teaching our children to ask good questions to each other, having that positive conversation. So trying to avoid disciplining your children at the family or at the dinner table or the kitchen table, trying to avoid those touchy subjects, and save that for either at another time and not at family mealtime. So when the family comes together, there's always that positive association with these meal times, rather than feeling stressed about, oh, my parents are going to ask me about my grades or ask me about something else that's going wrong in my life. Because we do want to reduce the stress at family mealtime. We've talked about distractions already, so this will be different for every family, but trying to implement something within your family so they know that, no devices or the TV's off. I know some families have like a little device basket, and even the parents put their devices into the basket and maybe put it in another room. So it's just out of sight, out of mind, and everyone's able to focus on the current family meal, whatever that might be. And then respect is important as well. So siblings respecting each other, the children are respecting the parents, but then the parents also respecting the children. But any other good characteristics that you can think of for a family mealtime, or any comments or questions? Okay, just want to give you a second, and feel free if you do have a question or a comment to just type it in the chat and I'll look at it. Okay, so we've talked about how family mealtime is positive to build family relationships. It kind of is nourishing our soul, but we also want to nourish our body with good food at family mealtime. So I think this is just a great visual to stick by when we're trying to develop family meals, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's really important at a meal to have all 5 food groups, just to make sure that we are having variety in our diet. We're getting all the nutrients that we need, and it just makes our plate look better too, when we have all the food groups. So it gives your children more options of what they can have at the family mealtime. So if you don't have this picture, you can print it out and have it on your fridge. So when you're planning your meals, you can make sure that you're including all of the food groups. Okay, so I just wanted to briefly talk about this. So it's the division of responsibility. It's related to child feeding, but I think it is a good thing to talk about when we talk about family meal times. So I won't go too much into depth with this just because it is related to child feeding, but I did want to briefly talk about it. So when it comes to eating and meal times, it's important for children and parents to have certain responsibilities. So this, I guess I'll go through it. So with parents, they have 3 responsibilities. They choose what the family is going to eat. They choose when the family is going to eat and where the family is going to eat. So for when, if we're eating breakfast, they can establish a breakfast time that works for the whole family, maybe before school and before the parents have to go to work, and that's the best time for your family meal time. Or maybe dinner is better for you and you pick a time that works around everyone's schedule. So it's better for the parents to do that. And then where is important as well. So with a family meal, it's encouraged to eat at a table. It just helps with that environment. But also, maybe you want to eat outside or something like that. So just making that choice and making sure everyone knows, this is where we're having our family meals, and we're gathering at that place. And then for the children, and this might seem a little bit different than what you might be used to, the children's responsibility is to choose if they're going to eat and how much they're going to eat. So in the case of family meal times, it's really important to establish that this is the time that we are gathering as a family at the kitchen table and we're eating together. But then to take the pressure off the children and the youth, you have the children, or you have the food there. The parents have chosen what is offered for that meal, and then the children decide if they're going to eat or not. But if they're not going to eat anything, if they're not hungry, parents also have that responsibility to say, well, we're still gathered together as a family. We're not going to require you to eat anything, but you can't just go and watch TV, or you can't go play outside or go play on a device or something like that. You're still going to be here with the family and building those relationships. And then also with the how much they eat, this kind of varies depending on the age of the child. So parents with younger kids, you would probably serve them their food. You give them their portion sizes. But as they grow older, they'll develop those skills. Maybe they can serve themselves with observation so they don't spill all over the place. And then as they get older, of course, they're able to serve themselves. But children are born with hunger and fullness cues. And if parents are respecting those hunger and fullness cues, children are able to, what's the word? I just lost the word. They're able to decide when they're hungry and when they're full. And if we as parents kind of overpower that and say, well, you need to clean your plate, you need to eat everything, over time, they might not listen to those hunger and fullness cues anymore. And that can be an issue later in life because maybe they may start to overeat. As parents, we're kind of the authority in a sense. We know what's best and we want what's best for our children. So if they're not choosing to eat the food that we've made for them at this meal, it can be very frustrating. And like she said, we want to say, you cannot leave the table until you eat all your food or 3 more bites or whatever it is. And think back to your own experience as a child or experience you've had recently with your own children. And when you think of those experiences where you're forcing your kids or where you were forced to eat something, there's a lot of negativity around it. And possibly if it was a specific food, you might not like that food, or to this day, you still don't like that food. She goes on to talk about how if you make your kids eat that extra bite or two more bites, really, there's not a lot of beneficial nutrition in those 2 bites. But there is that negative connotation with keeping them at the table for an extra hour, going through that where they're crying and you're trying to make them eat it. So overall, it's better to just trust your child and offer them the best food that you can. And so, whatever foods they're choosing to eat, they are getting some nutrition. And if you continue to work with them over time, they are going to develop good eating habits. But it does take trust for sure. And another thing, I remembered what I was going to say. So another thing is not being that short order cook. So if the children don't choose to eat at the meal, just letting them know that, saying, this is our meal for, let's say, at dinner. If you're choosing not to eat, there's not going to be a snack that you can't just go eat whatever you want an hour from now. This is what we're having. You can have this later, etc. So just establishing that as well. Okay, so we'll move on with that. Okay, so yeah, just kind of a little bit more in depth of the responsibilities of the parents versus the children. And I think we've covered most of these, so we'll continue on. Okay, so every family is different. There's no one right way to have a family mealtime. So just whatever works best for your family, that is great, and keep doing that. It does take time to figure things out, especially if you don't currently do family meal times. It's going to take time, but eventually you'll figure out what works best for your family. So here's just some tips for making mealtime successful. So set that expectation for parents and children. So you can have, a meeting and say, this is what we want our meal times to be like. Even make a list if that's helpful for children, and ask them, what can I do as the parent to make this a positive experience? Um, and and set that expectation of, we're gathering together, this is the time we're going to be together, um, and make it a positive experience. And we need to be proactive about it. So if we set a goal to have family mealtime 3 times a week, really strive to make that consistent. As the comment was shared earlier, children thrive on that schedule, and it's sometimes easy to just say, oh, we're too busy, let's just do it tomorrow, or let's just start again next week or something. But we really need to try to stick to that schedule. And that kind of goes along with this. So making our meal times a priority, and whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whatever works best for your family. And I think this next tip is really important too. So when we have a mealtime, sometimes we feel we always have to create, a perfect meal and just have everything, amazing at the meal. But that can lead to a lot of stress. Sometimes the best meals are towards the end of the week, where you have a couple of different leftover options, just kind of a free for all. You have all the food groups, but it's just kind of an array of different foods. But it's fun for kids to pick what they want to eat, and that makes it fun. So the meals you choose, you want to have all the food groups in them, but they don't need to be extravagant, or very fancy. It just needs to be something that your family can gather around to nourish themselves and just provide that good experience. And we've talked about this a little bit too. So having those mealtime responsibilities. So for children, maybe when they're younger, they can help with setting the table or doing some of the prep for the meal. But just making the children know that, they're a part of the family. They're going to help either with the cooking or the cleaning up or the preparing for the meal. And they're not just going to come to the meal, enjoy it, and then leave. So it's the whole process is that meal.
I have an idea to share.
Yeah, thanks.
Along those lines, for special occasions, my mom let the kids do the name cards for like all the guests. So we thought that was really fun being involved that way, like grandma and grandpa and, the kids where everyone sat.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Emily. That's a really good idea. And that's another great thing, if they're too young to help with the actual cooking, they can totally create some fun name cards, like you said, or other decorations for the
or
family.
Even like folding the napkins or something. We did that when we were young too.
That's awesome. Thanks. Any other thoughts? No, I'm just kind of going through it. Okay. And then if you're trying to, maybe you're new to having family meal times, if it's not something that you've done a lot, having that weekly check-in to see how it's going, or planning your meals for the week, picking a couple of recipes that you want to create for your family meal time. And then mix it up as well. And I'll talk about this on the next couple of slides. So of course, we have just our normal family meal times. You sit down together, have spaghetti and a salad or something, and that's a great go-to meal, something that the whole family enjoys. But sometimes it's fun to have some sort of fun new family mealtime that kids and even the parents can look forward to. And this is something just that can be like 1 to 3 times per month. So this doesn't need to be once a week or twice a week, just occasionally to just mix the family mealtime up. So these are a couple of options, and you can, in your family mealtime meetings or something, you can even brainstorm with your family of what types of things you like to do. So have a destination dinner. So the weather's nice right now, maybe going on a picnic or something, or just even eating outside in your backyard. Or if there's a fun little spot that you guys like to go to in your area, going to that and bringing your dinner with you. Picking a theme for the dinner is always fun. So common ones are like Taco Tuesday, that's a popular one. But even going beyond that. So I heard one family, they had their kids create like a restaurant and they were serving the parents. One family did an airplane. They took a trip to, I don't know, Europe or something, and their dinner was what they would serve on an airplane. So that was kind of fun. So things like that, kind of going back to what Emily was saying, to get the whole family involved, creating this. And you can kind of see that this would take a little bit more effort, and that's why you wouldn't want to do it all the time, but occasionally is always fun. Switching the roles. So this kind of goes along with the previous one. So having the kids prepare the meal, and this depends on how old your children are. As they get older, this could be definitely an option. Having a special dinner. Of course, this would be more of an exception, not necessarily the rule. So yeah, we'll continue on. And then travel the world at mealtime. So trying a new recipe from a different country is always fun. And the kids could research the recipes from a different country and then help prepare it. And that's a great way to educate your kids as well. Looks like Janelle has a comment. She said, oh, that is awesome. They have done fondue with their kids and they loved it, and they had great conversation at the meal as well. Awesome. Yeah, perfect. So again, there's a lot of different things that your family can do to kind of mix it up. And these are just a couple of options. Okay, so that is all I had for family meal times, and I was just gonna transition to board games, but any last comments or questions about family meal times? Oh, okay. So it looks like there's a comment. So we did it like a nailed it. Oh, okay. I was wondering, okay, each kid's got a list of food items and they had to make a meal using those. That is really fun. Do you want to share how it went or how it turned out?
Yeah, actually they had really fun doing it. We did it during the COVID shutdown and they were bored out of their minds. And I don't remember what the list they were, but like, obviously I had to help my 6, 7-year-old and 9-year-old, but they would look up, they would put the ingredients in like Google and pull up recipes that included those. And we had some weird meals, but they thought it was super fun.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Any other comments? Okay. Oh, looks like we have one in the chat. Oh yeah, formal meals in the house was great. Nice.
I was just going to say, Jenna, in our home growing up, one time a month we had a meal that was formal. And there was 3 boys in our family, so my mother wanted us to be able to use the correct forks and all those types of things and knives. And so we actually learned which forks to use and all those types of things during that meal. Then we had a special dessert every time we had it, which could be anything from cherry jubilee with flames to homemade ice cream or something. So we made it a special dinner for us.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And that's a great thing too to teach your children, you know, about those proper manners at the dinner table, but even digging deeper into the placement of the utensils. That's really awesome. Thanks. Okay, so board games. This is a great topic and I love board games. So I was excited to do a little bit more research into this. So before we talk about specific types of board games, I was just kind of thinking about, you know, when we're playing board games, what the environment is when we're playing. So growing up, and even to this day, my family is quite competitive. I'm very competitive. And so sometimes there were games that we got a little bit too competitive. I don't know if you've ever heard of the game Sorry, but this one was banned for a while in our house because usually it ended in crying. And it's even just like a game of luck. There's really no strategy involved. But just with the competitiveness, it wasn't a positive thing in our house. So I think when we're playing games together, we need to be aware of the environment that we're creating when we're playing games. So if we know that you're a competitive family, or there's certain games that are not necessarily the most positive, maybe choose not to use those. Yeah. Sorry is amazing if you haven't played it, but you just you can't be too competitive with it. Settlers of Catan is another one that can get quite competitive. So when we're talking about family game night, and this could be an extension of family mealtime, or even as one of those special meals, you can play a game during your family meal. If that's something that your family wants to do. So some things to think about is the age of your children. So choosing games that are appropriate for that age. And I'm sure you're all aware of that, but maybe you have some older kids and some younger kids. That might take some work. You might have to teach your children about compromise. So that's that last bullet point. So if you have older kids and they always want to play the older games, you'll have to teach them, you know, we have to play as a family and we have to play games that everyone can play together. And then maybe on an occasion, you can play different games with those older kids. So you kind of have to teach that compromise characteristic. And then also knowing the personality of your children can be important. So I was always a kid that liked strategic games, whereas my sister, she just more liked the group games. And so we would always have to compromise, and depending on what game we were playing. So I thought I'd just have two different slides, one of just the classic games, because honestly, sometimes these are the best games, and it's fun to teach your kids, you know, checkers or chess if you like that, if you know how to play chess. Looks like we have a comment in the chat. Oh, that's a great idea. So I don't know what your first name is, but Bowles said we intentionally get collaborative games so we can all work together for the win. And I love that. That's such a good idea. So rather than competing against your family members, you're building that unity. That's great. Oh, Peaceable Kingdom. I've not heard of that. I'll have to look into that. Let's see, Mancala is a kind of an old school one that's fun. You can teach your kids and then they can just play with each other. I put this picture on the top right because some of those games where you don't need a lot of equipment is just as fun. So pick up sticks, different drawing games, just the classic card games, Go Fish, are really great as well. And if you want to have some sort of snack with your family night, that is great too. But then I just thought of a couple of games that maybe are newer, maybe you haven't played with your family that might be fun to play. So one that I really like, and it's great for a lot of ages, and you can even play in teams if you have younger kids, is Double Ditto. And this one is kind of a cooperative game, like was talked about in the chat box. But basically, you have a topic. So, for example, things that can fly. And you write down 2 things, in this case, that can fly. So, an airplane and a bird. And the goal is to match your answers with the other people in the room. So you get points when you write things that other people write down. So that's a really fun one. And you only have about 10 seconds, I think, to write your answers. So that's a really good one. And it makes for a fun game night. Ultra Dash, my nieces and nephews introduced this to me, and it is so fun. And you can play it outside or inside. So it's a great rainy day game as well, but it gets you moving. But basically what you do is you have 5 different little cones and you spread them out across the room, and you start the little, I don't even know what it is, like a little baton or something, and it'll say a color and you have to run and hit that color and then continue on, and it's timed. So that one is fun. We have a great question in the chat box. So Catherine asked, we are struggling with teaching our 7-year-old good sportsmanship. She hates losing and rubs winning into her younger siblings. Any tips? So I'll open that up to the group. Any tips for teaching good sportsmanship?
Jenna, I would have the parent ask if there's a reason why the child is responding that way. There's something else that she likes, or is it just, remember, developmentally, that age, that's about what they're looking to do, is really kind of compete against others. If she's the oldest or the youngest, that makes a difference also. So there's lots of things to look at when we're talking about developmental responses to things like stress, fun, games, all those types of things.
Yeah, great comment. And anyone feel free to answer. So that I can relate to that question. That was basically me growing up. I was a sore loser and was a terrible winner as well. So I think also just talking with your child, just teaching them, how your reactions affect others. So when you
go ahead. It kind of goes along with that, but like I have some kids that are like that too, but not everybody is good at everything. And so maybe when you're talking to your child, maybe you can say, remember how like last week you were playing soccer and somebody scored a goal on you and you weren't happy that they, made you feel sad about that. Maybe that's how you're making them feel. You have to make them realize that the situation applies across multiple things, that not everybody's good at everything, and maybe they're great at this game and this next game they're great and they can be competitive, but there's something in their lives that they're not like the best at, and that's okay.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that, Janelle. Yeah, I think it's all about just having that open communication with your child and teaching them about awareness. And I really like how you said, you're not going to be good at everything. And yeah, it's definitely okay to lose, but maybe teaching them how to manage their emotions when they lose is important as well. And just being that good example too is important. So hopefully that kind of helps you. But it takes time. So just continuing to work with them, and if they are crying or something when they're losing, just rather than saying, oh, it's fine, shake it off, whatever, just talking with them more about it too. So hopefully that helps a little bit. So it looks like I'm just about out of time, but yeah, Quick Cups is a really fun one as a family. You can see in the picture, it gives you, so you have a certain amount of cups and you have to create something based on the picture that you get, and whoever's first gets some points or something. And that one's fun. I've never played Exploding Kittens, but I've had a lot of people talk about this game and they really like it. It's a great family game. So I would recommend that one. Looks like we have someone here that really likes it too. Spot It is a fun one, and it's a great, easy game for a lot of different ages as well. And then I don't actually know how to pronounce it. I say Suro, but this one is maybe for a little bit older kids. I have a picture, but it's kind of a strategy game. You're building a path for your little character. So if you have kids who like more of strategic games, are a little bit older, this one is a pretty fun one too. And then Codenames is also quite fun. It's a good group strategy game. You split up into 2 groups and you're trying to work with each other to find the right words. So those are just a couple of games, but hopefully you're able to pick some fun ones. So just to wrap up, since I'm a little bit over time, but yeah, just remember that, you know, the purpose of family meal times are just to build those positive relationships with each other, and we need to make sure we're doing our part to build that environment that enhances our children's communication with us, so we can you know, build those lasting relationships. And of course, got to put in that final plug for having a healthy meal. So we're teaching our children good eating habits as well. And remember, every family is different. So just find what works for you and roll with it. So that's all I have, but it was great presenting, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, Jenna, thank you so much for joining us today. These are great topics. And like I said, I love board games at our house, and we strive really hard to have family mealtime together as often as we can. If we have no questions, then we will end the meeting. Reminder, next week, we will have a guest speaker talking about summer reading programs that the library puts on. So invite your friends and join us next Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna.
Thanks.